cloud. All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar entitled The Servant Challenger. I'm pleased to introduce Nate Brown. Nate is a perpetual student of the world's greatest experiences and the people who create them. Having spent the first decade of his career managing a complex technical support environment for occupational health and e-learning software, he transitioned to customer experience in 2015. I didn't even know there was a thing about customer experience back in 2015. So,
Early days.
obviously there's a lot of years there you've built up. After authoring the Ultimate CX Primer, he was dubbed the CX Influencer of the Year by Cloud Cherry in 2019, a top global CX thought leader by ICMI, which, interesting enough, I didn't know was a sister company to HDI. So
Yes, it
that's
is.
that's interesting,
Informa is the
right?
parent. Yep.
As a parent, yeah, and a lot of us probably have been to HDI conference. So Cedars, Netomi, Martech Vibe, and many more. Some of them I don't know, so I'm just kind of reading through their names, but I'm sure they're stellar in their own right. He's a community builder at heart, co-creator of CX Accelerator. I'm part of the Slack community. Maybe Nate will provide a link to join that community.
Sure.
Excellent, very thoughtful, engaging conversations happening there. It's a first-class nonprofit community to help customer experience professionals grow in every stage of their career journey. He's helped brands of all types and sizes to cultivate meaningful communities inside the organization, extending outward to customers. And, frankly, I've talked to Nate a few times already. Great guy, real energetic. If customer experience is on your horizon or you're thinking about customer experience, Nate is a great guy to bounce some ideas off, and the community is very responsive to give some good ideas of where to start. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Nate.
Perfect.
Oh, just real
Welcome.
quick too, just
Yeah.
kind of a formality. We'll have about 45 minutes of the slide. The session is being recorded, so I will send it out after around 5 business days. I'll post it on the usual site, ITSM Google website. Please put yourself on mute. If you do want to ask a question, raise your hand. I'll take you off mute. We have 32, so it's a pretty manageable group. So if you do want to have a question, feel free to ask questions throughout. If not, we'll hold them off till the end, or you can wait till the end. And then use the chat, please. Talk to each other, brainstorm ideas. That's what the chat's for. But please use the Q&A to ask questions. And with that, I will really turn it over to Nate. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Mitchell. Yeah, I've enjoyed collaborating with Mitchell on this topic and talking through. We met several times together, just talking about you and trying to think about what would be something helpful here. And I hope this will be. Yeah. So I love the IT service management world. My first certification as a professional was through HDI and was running a technical help desk and had a peer, Yogesh, who has just exploded in the ITSM world. So it's fun to watch him excel. And it was an experience mindset that really helped him, throughout his career. And it's fun to see. So thank you all for taking some time out, for being willing to invest in yourself. I know how hard that is to make happen with the many priorities that vie for our time. But we're gonna hopefully make this very meaningful, and we'll do that for each other, of course. And would love your comments and participation in the chat. I've got that pulled up over here, and so we'll be thrilled to see those comments and questions as we go through. So I do, yeah, I'm just a student of this. Anybody that thinks they have this figured out is probably lying to you. It's amazing how dynamically the whole experience management world is changing so quickly, and not just the technology either. The mentality, the psychology around this, and I just recently had an opportunity to build a brand new customer service call center inside of Broadcast Music Inc., the legendary royalty rights organization right here in Music City. And it was fascinating bringing in brand new talent today and how different that was building a team at UL even 10 or 15 years ago. And just the mentality of the talent and those that are entering into IT and customer service type of roles. So learned a lot in this season doing that about how to best engage and activate these wonderful people that are out there filling these service roles. So first thing to chat. Well, I would like for you to guess, what do you believe is the most deadly barrier to organizational innovation? What prevents organizations from being able to move forward and create the type of experiences they want to be able to create? Go ahead and drop that in. Oh yeah. Okay. We got some good ones here. Fear. The way we've always done it. Remember that one. Don't move my cheese. Amen. Yep. Inertia. Okay, that's literally the word that I was. Who said that? Um, Mitchell. I don't know if you have prizes, but if there is a prize to give, Sarah Stubbs needs that prize. Yeah, these are all so good, and money. Yeah, definitely, Ryan. Um, but the idea of the way we've always done it and inertia. So there's brilliant research from this book called Prime to Perform, which we will get into in a little bit. But they say that inertia is the number one killer in terms of our ability to innovate and create the type of experiences that the organization wants to be able to create. In fact, the type of experience that we're promising out to our customers. But it's inertia that holds us back. And it's kind of hardwired into us. I tried to find a picture of a child's brain, and if you look, and I've obviously this is a science fiction depiction, but it was just exciting to me, and it does represent well just the unlimited potential, the different neurons that are just haphazardly waiting to connect. They're excited to connect in new ways, and how different if you look at the brain of an adult, there's these highway supernova pathways because the brain really becomes a method in which the energy of your body is reduced. Your brain is hardwired to look for shortcuts and to do things the easiest way possible, to not expel as much energy as you might have to. So that idea of curiosity and learning new things becomes harder and harder for us as adults when these highways are formed in our brain. So we're looking to break connections and to invoke a kind of a new sense of curiosity and a new sense of awakening in the context of what's going on in our work, in the work of ITSM, in higher ed, in the work of customer experience. We're in for this unbelievable revolution that's going on, with so many factors that are coming in. And really, one of the biggest ways that I've been describing it is in the past, especially as we think about customer service, we've been ticket takers. We've been those who just kind of inherit the tickets of the organization and do our darndest to ultimately resolve and fulfill tickets. And that is no more. Like the self-service capabilities that are out there now are unbelievable in terms of their capabilities to take tickets and resolve tickets. So what is left now, and what should be there, is this unbelievable opportunity for us to be a guide. I love, there's a resource called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, and it talks about how we're not the hero of the story, which can be really hard for some higher education places to understand. Like, it's like, no, we're the customer, the students, whatever that customer is for you, they're actually the hero of the story. So then what do we become? We become a guide. And the more effective of a guide we are, the more that we can help our customers to arrive at their definition of success. And that's a critical designation there. Their definition of success, not what we assumed it to be, not what we thought, but like we've learned enough about our customers to where we can walk alongside them and co-create with them on this journey to value as a partner of theirs. So like think about how different of a mentality that is than a ticket taker. It's exciting. It's yeah, a good question, Chuck. That was Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. A really wonderful resource that's there that got me thinking about how wonderful it is. Well, and this is a great exercise for you to do with your team, is to think about, what does a guide look like for us? Like the specific attributes of a great guide. What do we know about our customer, the hero of the story? What do we know about the journey that they're on? And what does it look like for us to bring them to their definition of success? What's holding us back? What are the friction points there? What does it look like in terms of our personality as an organization to walk alongside them in an effective way? So yeah, it's an exciting exercise to go through that. Thank you so much, Katie. That's super helpful. So as I've been helping organizations to try to morph away from that ticket taker mentality and become something more elevated, more capable, I've been doing a lot of research and reading, and I've stumbled across a few things that I'm excited to share with you. And the first is this idea of being a challenger. I kept finding the word challenger, and a challenger is somebody who has the capability to break the status quo, to break inertia. It's an inertia breaker. They can break through these walls that we so often put up inside of our own minds, and that naturally form inside of organizations. The challenger has that unique confidence and capability to push through. Um, and as we think about the different places that we see that word challenger, one of my absolute favorites is from the original circle of psychological safety. I know Simon Sinek has done a lot of great work on this to elevate the awareness of this, but like this is going all the way back to Timothy R. Clark. It begins so that this circle of psychological safety is basically the membrane that protects your ability inside of an organization to function well and to excel in your job, and or the lack of will absolutely prohibit you from being able to create great experiences and to be present and fully engaged in your work. Because if the circle of psychological safety is not there, as human beings, we're just waiting for the knife in the back. We're just waiting to be a victim of either a peer, a leader, or something else in the organization who's going to come and knock us off track. But when this is in place, we have the ability to look outward from ourselves and to start to serve others. So it starts with inclusion. We are safe. Nobody is going to take away what is mine. I am safe to function here. I'm comfortable. I'm not excluded. Then we get to morph a little longer, a little deeper into learner. Now my tendrils of curiosity are starting to come out. I can even start to experiment a little bit with the things that I'm learning and have the freedom to acknowledge and admit mistakes that might happen as I explore. Then we get to a place, and this is rare that we would see this, where we have true contributors in an organization, where we have the ability to vocalize new things, new concepts without fear of ridicule, of some form of social pressure slash ridicule. And people actually want to do that. There's this great story that Stacy Sherman was telling me about where she saw these two young guys on a subway in New York, and they're just chattering away, talking about if we put the light bulbs by the batteries on this end cap over here by the chips, I think people would actually not have to walk all the way across the store and do this and do that. And this conversation kept going, and finally she's like, who do you work for? Like, who are you, like the youngest grocery executives ever? Like, she was so engaged and perplexed by this conversation. Ended up being two entry level cashiers at Trader Joe's. But you had these two people that were contributors, and they were in a circle of psychological safety where they know that the next day when they came in, people were excited to hear what they had thought of, the innovations that they had come up with, and they were excited to present those. There's a restaurant in Southern California where the wait staff just has a 3x5 note card in their pocket, and every day they're just writing down things that they notice that would enhance the guest experience the next day. And at the end of the day, they get to celebrate the things that worked well, make tweaks, do this, do that, and then ultimately offer the new contributions of here's how it could be even better tomorrow. That's the type of culture that we see when the contributors are able to be their full selves. But what we're really working towards is level 4 here, which is that of challenger. And that's where not only are we helping to innovate and have new ideas, we're starting to be able to find friction pockets and see inertia for what it is, and speak it out. Have the courage to identify those problems, those issues in the organization, and do that upward, sideward with peers, downward, like wherever. Like, we have the safety is here, the trust is here to where we can be challengers towards one another. And why would we do that? We would do that because we care so much about what our organization is looking to achieve. Otherwise, why am I going to bother? You're just not going to be activated to that degree. But the more that these things are in place and the more that you have that meaningful mission that's being cultivated in the minds and hearts of these people, the more that challengers are going to start to awaken. And it's really exciting to see that happen. So this is that person who has the confidence, desire, and capability to push the boundaries of the status quo. And so the more that we as leaders can be identifying the barriers to and the opportunities to cultivate challengers, the more that we're going to see amazing things happen, inside of our teams. But it's not enough here simply to challenge. And I I remember I was working inside of a major safety science company. There was an executive who picked up a book one night, and I think it was like lean startup thinking something something. And there was a town hall the next day. This is a very dangerous combination. So this executive jumps up there. He's like, I want everybody to come up with an idea, a just do it, which is like a Kaizen term. Just do it. Like you have a week to come up with something and just start working on something. And as you all could probably imagine, what occurred was the most stupid, wild west of innovation that you could. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like none of the ideas came together. It was basically just people coming up with whatever their pet peeve was, and you know, just coming up with all these goofy things about the break room, and like it didn't culminate into a meaningful thing. And it kind of made me realize, it's not enough simply to challenge for our own sakes. Like that's not enough. Like until we're unified into an organization of challengers where we're challenging something beyond ourselves together, we're not really unlocking the magic. So then layering that on, I started looking more and more at the work of Kim Scott and Radical Candor. And she talks about how many times you've not earned the right to challenge until you've started to care. And if you feel like you can't be a challenger to your peers, which most organizations aren't even close to that level of cultural maturity, then what needs to really start to happen there is you build that trust and you build that foundation in which you really have demonstrated that you care. And you care about two things. You care about that person personally, like you are a human being. I acknowledge that. We work together, yes, but like you're somebody that I love and respect. And we have differences obviously, but like you're somebody that I'm going to.
Did we lose you, Nate? Can everyone hear me or? Yeah. Oh, maybe he'll, yep. All right, thanks. Yeah, give him a second to rejoin. Well, good. Glad to hear that. Yeah, he's very dynamic. Can learn a lot from him. He's probably going to rejoin, so just bear with us as we deal with these technical issues. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I've been in a meeting and someone froze or I froze, and it's not the most glamorous pose, if you know what I mean. I'll actually pause the recording just till he join, and then we will turn it back over to Nate.
Okay, yeah. I'll I can't really show the slides on my phone here very well, unfortunately. But what I was, I hope what I was saying is that as we think about
Well, real quick,
what it,
sorry, if you want to send them to me, I
sure,
can, then just tell me advance if that's possible.
yeah. I can work on that. Yeah. So
Actually, it is the deck, Mitchell, that I had sent previously,
Okay,
but
I'll
I
find it.
can. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry about this. It's like a perfect day outside. I have no idea, but Nashville is always under construction, so that could explain it. But we're talking about how it's not enough simply to be a challenger for the sake of being a challenger. And the more that we can unify people around this concept, the greater things become. And there's this great work by Kim Scott that's out there, mostly encapsulated in a resource called Radical Candor. And it's about how if we want to earn the right to challenge directly, we have to care personally first, and we care about our peers, we cares about those around us, but we also care greatly about the organization's brand promise. Like there's some unique reason that this group of people got together. Like you're trying to achieve something that's unique and different, and your workplace is a community. It's a community of people who care about something together. And and if people don't care about that very much, then it's not a very strong community. And you're not going to find that people have enough care to challenge, because they're not convicted enough regarding the organization. Why would I ever want to challenge a peer? Then the things to unpack there are is like, well, why wouldn't I? Like, do the two of us not together care enough about what we're trying to achieve collaboratively? Or have I not earned the right with them because like we just don't know each other well enough? We're uncomfortable there. Like what would be the barriers? Because as we think about that circle of psychological safety, what we're trying to get is in that challenger category to where we would even have a hard conversation with a peer, because we care so much about what we're trying to achieve. So I mean, and that's a very different mentality than that of a ticket taker, than that of what we would associate with most legacy service desks. It's just kind of going through these motions and just trying to get things done. But when we think about, this idea of being a challenger and being a guide, then things the whole conversation starts to change. And you're thinking about, how can I support this community that I'm in, towards this common mission. But it's much harder than you may think. And there's this great resource by Tribal Leadership, which is a resource that is widely popularized at this point. But it talks about these exact same things. This word challenger is such a recurring theme in a lot of these resources, and how hard it is for organizations to get to a quote unquote level 5 culture, to where people are unified to this point. And where like 60% of organizations get stuck is between levels 2 and 3. And what those are, level 1 is everything is awful, everything sucks. Level 2 is, well, I'm not very good, but some other people, there's some good things going on in the organization. Level 3 is, I'm pretty good, but there's a lot of dumb people out there. And then level 4 is, wow, okay, there's something going on. This is good. I have some trust with these people. We're starting to achieve some things together. Level 5 is like, we are changing communities through our shared brand purpose. So the vast majority of organizations get stuck between level 2 and level 3, meaning that very few organizations have ever earned the right to be in this category of a challenger. So why is that so hard? And I think to where, I had a situation recently where I had a neighbor, and we were talking, and we're like, hey, if my house ever smells bad, you need to tell me. I need to know that. And so we made this pact with each other that we would tell each other if we walked in one another's house and it smelled bad in there, because you become nose deaf to your own home. And within a couple months, they got a new dog, and something happened in their kitchen, and all this. And so I walked into his house, and it smelled bad. Um, so what do you all think I did? Not a damn thing. I literally, I could not bring myself to tell this person that I cared about greatly that his health smelled bad because I was too afraid of ostracizing him and hurting the relationship and all of that. But I had made this pact that I would do it. So it just it makes me realize how convicted people have to be and how safe they have to feel for peers to start to challenge one another in any way. But like that really is what we're looking to start to achieve here. So then we want to layer on, and this is where I would love to. It takes so long for my modem to cycle back on. Okay, I do have internet. I am going to get back in this actual webinar. Give me one
Yeah,
second.
I was sorry, Nate. I was having a hard time finding the presentation. So if you are now at a point you can share, that's great. Otherwise, I told the group that I would make sure the deck gets sent out afterwards. So
Yeah, I'm coming back on the real thing. I'll be right there.
no worries. Was somebody on this call that wanted to promote a webinar around organizational change management? Are you on the call? Someone sent me an email asking if they could take a minute to promote that. Now would be a great time if you're on the call. If not, there is a webinar on OCM coming up. I'm one of the panelists, so you'll see more information about that. So,
Mm,
all right, back to you, Nate.
mm.
I feel like they're taking little commercial breaks, right? So that's fine, right? We're used to commercials.
Are they sponsored?
Sponsored to you, sponsored by.
I've just become a pickleball instructor, and the place that I give lessons, I have to play with a particular type of paddle. So I've started calling myself a sponsored athlete. All right, let me share this back. Yeah, well, I'm
As he's pulling it up, how many of you actually have taken up the game of pickleball?
it's a
Just
good question.
type in chat or a thumbs up if you actually play pickleball.
I'm curious on that as well. Got to give it a try, Sarah. All right.
I go on quite a few cruises, and every cruise ship has some sort of pickleball tournament or pickleball lesson. I know it's a craze right now. So
Super fun. All right. Well, thank you all so much for the patience on that. Hopefully, you can see that now. So, yeah, we were talking about how hard it is to cultivate that type of culture. So, really, what we're looking to do is not just have people who are challengers, but also who have a servant quality about them. And I love this from Point Loma, and I have customized this a little bit to serve our purposes for this conversation, more relevant to ITSM and higher ed. But these are qualities of somebody who is not just challenging for the sake of challenging, but is also serving and earning the right with people to be able to challenge in the right ways, and also for people to come together as challengers and not create that wild west of stupidity of everybody just running around breaking glass. So we're honoring others, we're inspiring vision, we're breaking inertia before falling back into that rut, that supernova highway that our brain falls back into. We're helping to clarify and inspire vision. We are choosing ethics even before profit, because that's how we earn trust and earn the right to grow our customer base. We help others forward. I mean, that's yeah. We're growing people. I love this one. Before performing tasks, we grow people, and how life altering is that for most ITSM organizations? And I'm not saying for you necessarily, but for many that I have seen, that is just so countercultural in such a good way. We're having focus and flexibility before forcing decisions. We're serving with humility before egos, get out of control, and we're lifting up other people's voices. And that's really where that idea of being a servant and not just a challenger is so important, because when we're drawing out the ideas of others and encouraging others to find their place on the higher levels of the circle of psychological safety, then amazing things are happening. So it's right here, this sweet spot. We have the challenger who's got this confidence, desire, capability to break inertia, which is so critical, right? I mean, that's what's stopping most organizations. But then we have the servant who has that mentality to do this all for the right reasons and earn the right with people. So it culminates into this right here. And if anybody's seen the resource Collective Genius, it's just awesome. I mean, it looks at the greatest organizations, the greatest teams in the world, and unpacks how did they get there. And of course, the attributes are the things that we're talking about. So innovation usually emerges when diverse people collaborate to generate a wide-ranging portfolio of ideas, which they then refine. You can't refine unless you're in that sweet spot that we talked about, and even evolve into new ideas through give and take. So, I mean, that's so different than one person having the idea and then everybody running and following that person, whether they're the leader or they have the credibility, or because nobody else is speaking up. You know, whatever that reason could be, this is a situation where everybody's contributing. Often organizations discourage or minimize these contributions, these differences, but that stifles the free flow of ideas and rich discussion that innovation needs. Leaders must manage this tension. This tension, I wish I could circle that with a laser pointer, to create an environment supportive enough that people are willing to share their genius, but confrontational enough to improve ideas and spark new thinking. I mean, that's the servant challenger right there. They're willing to share their genius to serve others through that. They care enough, but they're confrontational enough to improve the ideas of others and spark new thinking across the organization. This is so hard for us to do. And even if I look at good companies, like those companies that are trying hard to foster innovation, what I usually find is something like an idea box or some electronic format of that. If you got a great idea, stick it here and we're going to review it to see if it's a good one. What's the problem with that? I mean, you're literally putting the idea in a box. Like that's more than a metaphor there. Like what we're looking for is where somebody is locked into the circle of psychological safety. I'm a contributor. I don't have the full idea, but I care so much that I'm going to offer the thought that I have. Then somebody else who's also an activated contributor picks up on that, makes it something new, makes it something bigger. Then others are jumping in, and suddenly you have this free flow of ideas and rich discussion. But you have tension that leaders create to make that meaningful, to make it good and structured. So, I mean, there's a lot of give and take that we're talking about here, but it's so fun and wonderful to see it happen. And I got to serve and help build some new programs inside of Warner Brothers games as a consultant. And there were some really fun moments where I saw this collective genius come to life, where people were just so excited and activated. And it's kind of easy in the gaming world because you have a new game, and the infectious energy of your customers, the gamers, kind of spills back over to you, where you're like, oh, we're releasing Game of Thrones Conquest on the mobile device. They love these new features. I've got to knock this out of the park, or else these people are going to hate this. Like, as a game developer, like, I've got this pride. I see the immediate impact of my work. Like, it's all there in order for this to really happen. So for many organizations, it requires a little more effort to connect people to the impact of their work. But it's so critical that we do. And Gene Bliss has this great term called voice of customer engine. And it's that engine that makes innovation fire and happen in the organization. Every change needs a spark. And if you look at the first step in John Cutter's brilliant model of leading change, the first thing is to establish a sense of urgency, is to light the spark. You got to break inertia, break the superhighway in people's minds, and create new connections, new neurons. So we get to do that by helping them to see the impact that they're having on their customer. and the impact that they have is a really good, effective guide. So that requires a really good leader and a really good voice of customer capability inside of the organization that's bringing that type of motivation in. Um, I'm gonna look at the chat here. Yeah, Tim Ferriss says, "Make before you manage." That's great. Okay, I don't see any other questions here. But feel free to put any questions or comments out here as I'm going through, and we'll have some time at the
Yeah,
end as
Michelle
well.
had her hand up, but
Yeah.
I think she was just answering that. Yes, she's played pickleball. But Michelle,
Okay.
if you did still have a question, we want to make sure we get to it. Or if you want to wait till the end, that's fine too. So
Or if you just want to share your pickleball duper rating, that's fine as well.
there you go.
Uh, so you might be thinking, okay, this is interesting. This is really utopian thinking here. Like, great. How do I make this practical for anybody in the organization? And this right here is how I've done it for many executives, especially, where we started to put the rubber in the road on how we can think about some of these concepts and develop the sense of pride towards a very specific thing. And it's right there in the middle. It's the brand core, and most of us just don't talk about it near enough. Like, we should be drawing so much intrinsic motivation every day from the impact that we're making through our promises. What do we promise, and what are the core values that sum up what our brand stands for? You should look different than the organization down the road. Like, you otherwise, what's the point? Like, what are you doing? Why did you come together and create a unique community of people if not the fact that you have a very unique offering, something that you can do for the community that nobody else can? And there should be a lot of pride and celebration around that. But it comes from the bottom up. So we're talking about that mission and that vision. We're talking about our culture, which is just our attitude around it, how we work, how we behave towards one another. So, I mean, that's that circle of psychological safety in a big way. And then our competencies. What are we really good at? What does set us apart to where we can be the guide in a way that nobody else can? And then we're expressing that in a particular way. But where we generally operate is way up here at the top, and we tend to forget, these things lower down. It's just, well, what's our value proposition? What about our offerings, our new services? Are they appealing to customers? These things are obviously very important, but we're really focused here in the middle layer, when we're trying to motivate people and create servant challengers that then, we're creating that strategy, we're doing that value proposition, we're positioning ourselves in the marketplace. That's a tangible outcome of us knowing who we are and knowing who belongs to us in terms of our customers. We can't be all things to all people, folks. We need to have the courage to isolate who we are and who we can serve the very best. Who are we the best guide for? Then we go get them because they belong to us. But if there's nothing distinctive enough about you to have that type of conversation, then none of this stuff is going to be relevant. So that's the servant challenger model. Now, I want to just put a little bit of a bow on some of this since we have another couple minutes here. I do love this idea of being a serotonin leader. As I've looked in many teams and seen how they've tried to motivate people. A lot of times we're using these things over on the left, endorphins and dopamine, especially dopamine. Like, we're putting out some kind of goal, some type of achievement, and we're trying to pressure people to achieve the thing. And we're giving them some kind of award when that happens. Well, that can create a burst of energy for some. It's incredibly demotivating for many. But while it can create a really good burst of energy for some, it actually tears us down over time. It's not a refreshing chemical, and it creates cortisol in our bodies, which ultimately leads to this amazing stress that reduces our lifespan. So, I mean, we're trying to be the type of leader over here on the right that's using what I like to call community chemicals. And this is where you're laying the foundation where people care about one another and they feel like the circle of psychological safety is there. Because if what we do is put people in competition with one another all the time, then you're tearing down the circle. You're putting holes in the circle when you're using too many competitive levers, when you're overusing that competitive lever, versus when we're extending a sense of pride around what we together are achieving. And I'll offer this specific example for IT service management. Used to be that knowledge was power. In an IT department, knowledge was power. Who knew the most, who could do the most things, who had access to the most tools. And so people would hoard knowledge because it made them feel secure in their jobs. But now it's a completely different universe. And so I've been using the phrase knowledge curators. That's what we're trying to create. And so when we reinforce the type of behaviors where people are generous to share knowledge and to lift others up, when we as leaders recognize that happening and start to really draw that out as the desired behavior, because everybody's winning in that scenario, then great things happen, versus when we just continue to put up on a pedestal the person who kind of is just all about self-achievement. So just some things to think about and consider there as we motivate our teams. And for you as a leader, like I've had an executive coach, Steve Gutzler, who he had this great metaphor around we're fountains, like especially in this service work that we're in, like we're spilling over a lot. Our water is spilling over when we're going out and we're serving people. And we can get burned out very quickly, and that water can become very impure very quickly because we're drawing more than is there, and then we're having to draw from unnatural sources. But the challenge is to think about, what are your fountain inputs? Where are you drawing water that then you can give and extend over to other people? So thinking about like where you get your energy and where you get your information, and who you spend that time with, and how you ultimately construct your day. Like I think about, it was fascinating. There was one organization I worked in where, I mean, there's two distinctive type of leaders, and you knew in the first 5 minutes which one they were. And I did a little experiment. I would just watch at the start of the day. I'd watch one leader come in and immediately engage their team. Oh, how's it going? Oh, that's amazing. What happened here? And we have this thing going on today. I'm so excited for this. Then you had another leader just down the hall who literally bypass their own team, go into their office and shut the door. And just like the psychological power just put on display. I mean, just completely opposite leaders. And you know that the leader that comes in and shut their door, they're already in a bad mood for some reason. They don't have water to spill over. It's not there to give. And so they don't have good fountain inputs coming into them. So just think about for you, like especially the first part of the day, like you set the tone for the rest of your team. So the first 5 to 10 minutes is the most important part of your day by far. And where are you drawing water from, especially in the morning, to where you can spill it over in a very positive way? And you'll see a lot of impact with that. And then language matters. I mean, and this is coming mostly from that tribal leadership resource that I had mentioned. But I've worked with a lot of teams, in this work of experience management, to isolate friction and then work together to reduce friction. And I have found that it's really hard to get people to care about customer experience. It's hard for me, right? Because I care about it a lot. And so I'm talking about, the CX program this and the CX program that. People don't care about that. And it makes sense that they wouldn't. What they should care about is the unique brand promise that we talked about before, and being a guide and a guardian of that brand promise. So a lot of times I'll work with an organization to develop something like the code of a friction fighter, where it's like, hey, this is the brand promise, putting that first and foremost, like this is what we're looking to protect. Here's some attributes of a great guide, but here's what we do to guard the promise. And if there's negative friction that is out there, if there's things that are threatening our ability to protect the promise, here's what we do to address that. And it's like plain language. It's plain language, but it's also language that would exist in the brand. That's a reflection of your unique culture. Because a language is what bounds a group of people together. Having unique traits within the words that you speak over each other Like that's going to unify people in ways that are, it's hard to even understand how powerful language really is. And that drives this mentality, and that ultimately drives the behaviors that you're looking for. So it starts with language. So it's hard to underestimate, the power, the meaning of starting to put into words some of these things, like defining the attributes of a great guide, having the brand promise crystallized, and just be on a very regular basis, bringing that to bear and in these conversations when making decisions and other things, that it's going to matter a lot.
And Chuck
So
is asking, is there any,
yeah.
examples you could cite or language that, you could use?
Yeah, I was working with CHEP. It's the probably the biggest logistical company in the world that you've never heard of. So all the blue pallets that are back there in the back of Costco and Sam's Club, everything on a blue pallet is ultimately that CHEP owns those pallets. That's their asset. But then all the logistics of where those pallets show up so that people can move product. Um, and I got to facilitate some really exciting workshops with them, but there was just kind of a little bit of a language problem, and it wasn't really clear the impact that people were having with the work that they were doing, because the impact was so far downstream. And so by isolating some of the problems and putting some more meaningful language around them, somebody upstream in the customer journey that's here in like the HR department, finance department, supporting mechanism of some kind, could start to be more connected and feel the impact more of what was going on literally downstream, is that pallet either was or where was not where it was supposed to be. So that was really exciting to see their unique language come to life, and how much it started to connect people who are not directly customer facing, and how much motivation that ultimately led to. So that would be one example that I would use in that scenario. Yeah, great question, Chuck. So I know we're getting close on some time to go to some other questions. Wrapping up here, just got a couple more of these, but I do want to drive home. I teased the resource Prime to Perform. Would love Katie to drop that as well. Wonderful, wonderful resource. And what this is really talking about is, so it's got inertia there, and we talked about how that's the antonym of what's on the top right. So the top right is play. And that's the most motivating force that we can unlock. But it's not what you think it is when I just say the word play. We're not talking about buying a gamification platform, though that can be helpful. That can be a part of something. It's not, throwing a ping pong table over there in the break room or throwing the pizza party. These are all fine. But these are the cherry on top, the very small cherry on a cake that you're baking every day in the work itself. It's the employee is excited for and motivated by the work itself. There's a sense of curiosity around it. There's a sense of accomplishment around it. Thank you so much, Katie. So that's the biggest force that we have as leaders, to start to motivate people towards exceptional experiences that they're creating. If they are bored, if they are disengaged, it is time to insert some play into that. There's a problem to be solved. There's an impact to be made. And that's where we get to bring in some of these things that we talked about, that cultivate interest, that create curiosity, and we connect people to the work in really meaningful ways. And in that, there's a purpose that's achieved. And we talked about that brand core, that promise that we're defending. And if people aren't connected to that, you just have no feet to stand on, folks. I mean, you're not going to motivate anybody for the right reasons. We can't babysit people to great outcomes. It's not going to happen. They have to want it for themselves. And I'll tell you, after this experience of building this new contact center at BMI, I am even more convicted of this with the newest generations that are coming into the workforce. They have to be connected to the brand promise and the brand identity, and it's got to be strong and it's got to be unique. They're not going to do work because you told them to go do work. They're not going to do work because of your annual performance appraisal where they get some kind of number at the end of it or whatever that is. Like the things that used to motivate us back in the day to this is me self-identifying here. It's just different now in terms of what I have seen as a leader. I'm not trying to paint with a really broad brush here, and I know I'm kind of in danger of that, but like what I have seen as a leader is that people really want to be connected to these meaningful outcomes. So it just requires us to operate at a higher level as leaders to see that outcome and connect it all the way back into that work. And then ultimately they're becoming the person that they want to become through that. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. I mean, they're loyal to you, they're activated in the organization, they're doing high quality work because these things are present. But inertia, by far, out of all the things on the right, inertia is the thing that kills it. We just fall into a rut, we fall into a pattern, we fall into a comfortable, safe place. So what we need are challengers. And even more than that, servant challengers that are going to wake people up and raise the bar for the peers all around them. And an expression that I've heard from Petra coaching is that A players don't play with C players for long. I think about that for a second. Uh, if you don't deal with C players on your team, guess who leaves? Guess who leaves the team? It's not the C player. It's the A players because they're not going to put up with it because they're not being challenged. The bar's not being raised for them. They're not being held to the standard that they would expect. They're not becoming the person they want to become in terms of their potential because of the C players that are allowed to be there to kind of fester and bring the level of capability down for the entire team. So, I mean, it requires a lot of courage to make your C players into at least B players so that you can allow your A players to move forward. Yeah. Okay. But it starts with you. And I love how John Cotter talks about the first step in a change initiative is establishing a sense of urgency. So, I mean, that's what we get to do. See you, Katie. Thank you so much. Is establishing that sense of urgency with people. So I hope that is helpful. I hope that is going to light a spark in you a little bit that is transferable, that good, healthy water that could spill forward. That's certainly the goal for today. Back to Mitchell.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Nate. Sarah left. I was just going to say, if you're EDUCAUSE, I would give you your prize for having the best answer.
Oh.
It would be a cup of coffee. So,
Mm.
Sarah, if you're still on, find me at EDUCAUSE if you're attending, and we'll grab a cup of coffee. Yeah, I encourage all of you who are going to be at EDUCAUSE, check out some of the great sessions that are happening. I'm hosting one on experience management through a brain date. We also have pre-conference workshop on experience management all day if you haven't signed up for that. Lots of great stuff happening next week at EDUCAUSE. Thank you, Nate. Appreciate your time. I'm sure a lot of our brains broke, but that's okay because sometimes we need to unlearn things. We need to be rattled a little bit to start thinking fresh, right? So appreciate your time, Nate, and your wisdom. Um, if you want to just throw that slide up real
Yep.
quickly, I don't think
I
anyone
put
can click
the
on it. So in fact, let me go ahead and send actually that's right. At the end of this session, when I close out Zoom, you'll get a link to the survey. If not, the survey link will be included in the presentation. When you get that presentation, I wouldn't mind if you take a look and complete the survey. That survey
Yep.
helps us to provide better content and make sure we're addressing your particular topics with good speakers and good content. A reminder that the webinar was recorded and will be sent out within 5 business days. Nate's information is in the slide deck if you want to reach out. The ITSM's website is also a great place to look at future events that are coming up. We don't have anything planned through the rest of the year, but I may surprise you with a speaker or two. So stay tuned for more information if there are going to be events for the rest of the year. We're always looking for fresh ideas. If you've got a topic you want to present on, or somebody that wants to present on a topic, I always say, if you've got a voice, I got a stage. So reach out to me. You have my contact information. I'll help you put it together. Nate knows it's really easy. I do all the heavy lifting. You just have to show up with a smiling face and a colorful hat, and you're good to go. So again, thank you, Nate, for your time. And again, his contact information is on the slide deck, and I will send this out within 5 business days. Thanks everyone for your attention, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, bye all.